Hi, welcome back to my channel. It's day 7 of Inktober and today's prompt word is drip. So I've decided to draw a dripping tap, focus being more on the drip than the tap. But you're basically going to see just kind of like the tip of the tap with a water droplet coming off of it. Well, that's the idea anyway. And I'm going to be using pencils for this one because I decided that was the best way that I can kind of draw it. Taps are kind of grey anyway, well, silver, but comes across better in pencils. And I'm using these matte pencils, so they're supposed to like not have the sheen of the graphite. I'm not 100% sure that always works because if you press them hard enough to do enough layers, you kind of see a little bit anyway, but essentially you don't have to because they have a really deep dark kind of color. They go up to a 14 B. This set of pencils is made by Faber-Castell and they're called Pitt Graphite Matt. So they are still graphite. And to be fair, they do actually they reduce the sheen on the graphite by quite a lot. And I think the most, or the best thing, the most beneficial thing about these is actually how dark that 14B is. Now, I know I said I'd focus as drawing more on the drip, but I feel like just the very tip of the tap or the faucet, whatever you want to call it here, is really important because if I want the drip to look real or like a drip, then you kind of have to visualize the thickness of the tap and just give it a little bit of detail as well. When it comes to the drip itself, I think the most important bit is kind of the highlights and the shadows, like little bits of reflection here and there, because that's essentially what you see and that's what makes the drop looks real rather than a flat shape. The rest of the tap is just going to be like a vaguely grayed out shape, just so you know it's there, but almost like it's out of focus, because essentially it's not what you're looking at. You're looking at the bit in the foreground, that's where all the detail's going to be, and the rest is just like a little blurred out blob of color. Just tells your brain that it's there. That contrast between blurred and in focus is actually a really good way to draw attention to something. Because when we look at any picture, generally speaking, the first thing we're going to see is the thing that's in focus. Sometimes might not even notice the thing that's blurred out at all. So I tend to use that sometimes. So I could be drawing flowers and I really want to just focus on the one flower. So the rest will be blurred out in the background, just to kind of hint that there's something there, so it's not like alone on a page, as it were. But then the one flower that's in focus stands out even more, and the rest are just kind of there. You may notice them, you may not, and it's a handy trick to use when drawing. And in this case, I'm trying to put as much detail as I can into the tip of this tap, obviously, because I'm trying to make it look realistic. But then what helps that as well, it might not be perfect by any means, but what really helps it look even more in focus is the fact that everything else is kind of blurred. Because taps are generally chrome, it's a highly reflective surface. If I was to put as much detail and as many reflections into the rest of the tap, everything in the front would sort of get lost. Your eye wouldn't know where to look, and it just wouldn't have the same kind of realistic feel. It just wouldn't come across the same at all. I know this from experience because I've tried doing things where I spend so much time putting all the details I can see into everything, and then it just looks too busy, and yeah, almost like all of it loses focus. Even though it doesn't, there's detail in everything, but you just don't know where to look. The water being naturally clear, I'm going to try and keep mostly light. But in order for it to look light, you have to have a few really, really dark areas of shadow. So don't be afraid of those. And then the light areas can't actually be white, because if they're white, then the pure white highlights won't stand out. So just, yeah, as many different levels of shadows as possible kind of brings it all to life. And then the pure white highlights really make it sparkle. Well, that's about it. This is my Inktober Day 7 drawing, Drip. The Scrawltober prompt for today is fig, and I quite like figs. I don't know that I've ever drawn one, but it's quite a simple shape, and I've googled it to see what kind of how best to position it, and I really like just having one whole one and one kind of cut in half, because it makes it more interesting, because otherwise it's just a bit of a boring kind of really simple fruit. Kind of looks like a purple garlic, to be honest. So unless you actually show the inside bit of it, it's just not a very interesting drawing. And I'm going to do most of this in alcohol markers, but then I've decided the seeds in the middle, they're very tiny and they're going to be hard to do with markers, so I'm going to do those in pencil. So I'm just putting down the basic colors and shadows with markers, and then I'm going to use my Prismacolor pencils to do the to draw all the seeds in the middle and add a few little highlights here and there as well. I decided to use the Prismacolor pencils here because they have very soft cores, so the color goes down really easily and I don't have to do any kind of layers or anything like that to achieve a deep solid color. The seeds, they might look like a fiddly thing to do, but essentially they're just like different shapes and sizes. Some are round, some are slightly elongated, they go in all directions. So as long as I make sure I kind of do that and draw them in all directions so they're not all just facing the same way, it ends up looking kind of realistic. It's like I always say, nothing in nature is ever even, so the more random you make them look, the better it actually appears. Now just adding a few final highlights, and that's my fig for Day 7 Scrawltober. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more daily art. Thanks, see you soon!